Hi guys, welcome to the notes video for lesson 6.2. This is on using trigonometry to find a missing side in a triangle. Okay, so I'm gonna work through an example for these notes and write the steps that I'm doing along with it, because really the only way to learn this is to just see someone doing it, and then there'll be a second video where we try a few more examples. Okay. So, use trigonometry to find the missing side. The first thing I want to be able to do is figure out what trig ratio might be applicable. So remember, we have sine, cosine, and tangent. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent is opposite over adjacent. I want to use one of those to help me with this problem, but I need to figure out which one. So in order to do that, my very first step in this problem is to figure out which side I have and which side I want in terms of opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. So first step, identify which side you have. And by that I mean, is it the opposite, the adjacent, or the hypotenuse? Okay, so let's go over to our triangle. The side we have is 17. We're just given that side, so that's our have side. 17 is our have. And now we need to figure out which side of the triangle is that. Is that opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? So I notice that this blue side is across from the 90-degree angle, which means that this is the hypotenuse. So down here, I'm going to write that the side that I have is the hypotenuse. Okay. Second step is we're going to do the same thing with the side that we want. So we're going to identify which side you want. And again, by identify, I mean, is it the opposite, the adjacent, or the hypotenuse? Okay, so let's look back at our triangle. This is the side that we want, the side with the variable. That's the side that we're looking for. So this is our want side. And which side of the triangle is that? Well, it's going to depend on what angle we're using. So let's look at our angle. Our angle is right there. That's the angle we know, and it's 30. So what side is x for 30? It's straight across the triangle from 30. So that makes it the opposite side for 30. All right, so that means that the side that I want is the opposite. Okay, so I know that I have the hypotenuse, I want the opposite. I need to now pick the trig ratio that's gonna correspond to hypotenuse and opposite. So third step is pick the corresponding trig ratio. Or maybe I'll say the corresponding trig ratio. And by that I mean sine, cosine, or tangent. Okay, so to help us do that, let's write down SOHCAHTOA. This helps us remember how the trig ratios are defined. And I like to write SOHCAHTOA like this, with the fractions in there. So I want to know, is the sine part, the cosine part, or the tangent part going to correspond to having the hypotenuse and wanting the opposite? So basically I'm looking for which trig ratio involves both the hypotenuse and the opposite side. So let's look, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. There we go, we got it right there, this one. So we're going to use sine, because sine of an angle is equal to the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. So there's our want, there's our have. So that's why we're using sine. Okay, so let's use this to help us write an equation. And I want this all to be on the same. Okay, we're gonna zoom out for just a minute. Okay, so here's how we're gonna write our equation. We're using sine, so I'm gonna start with sine. Sine is of an angle, so we're gonna use the angle in our triangle, which is 30. Okay, and we know that sine of 30 is the opposite side, which is x in this case, over the hypotenuse, which is 17. All right, so that was our fourth step. I forgot to write that down. So fourth step is going to be use the trig ratio to write an equation. All right, and now once we have this equation, we can use this equation to solve for x, to solve for our variable. So fifth step is going to be solve for the variable. All right, so now I'm just going to do some algebra. I want to solve this for x, but first thing is I have sine 30 in here, and that's kind of obnoxious. So I'm going to turn this into a number. I want to know what number is sine 30. And you're going to use your calculator to do this. So I have a screenshot here of the iPhone calculator. If you don't have an iPhone, I'm guessing your calculator looks somewhat similar to this. There hopefully will be similar buttons. So if I want to know what number is sine 30, what I would do is I would punch the number 30 into my calculator, and then I would hit this button that says sine, S-I-N, sine. So punch in 30, then hit sine. And your calculator should display a number. And in this case, it should show 1/2, or 0.5. So that's telling me that sine of 30 is 0.5. So on this side of the equation, I'm just going to replace sine 30 with 0.5. So then I get 0.5 is x over 17. Okay, I want to keep working to get x by itself, so I need to take care of this 17. Right now I'm dividing by 17. To get rid of that or to undo it, I need to do the opposite, which is multiplying by 17. So I'm going to multiply by 17 on both sides. These 17s cancel, so I just have x. And then on this side, I just need to do 17 times 0.5. And if you do that, you should get 8.5. And on the right, we just have x. So 8.5 is x. So we solved for our missing side. Okay, that's the notes for this lesson. I know that that's kind of a new thing, so check out the examples video to see a couple more examples. Thanks.